We're going through the book of 1 Peter. For those of you that are aware, we've been doing it now for a few months. I'm going through it verse by verse, but we're not doing an expository. We're not taking every little word. We're just kind of taking a theme of certain verses and teaching on it. So here's the first one. We're in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. So here's what it says. Dear friends, it's like saying, dear collision, okay? Collision, God's talking to you. I urge you, as aliens and strangers, in the world, to abstain from sinful desires which war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans, that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and then glorify God on the day He visits us. But the word I want to look at here, the words is aliens and strangers. Earlier in chapter 1, we had a verse 117, that said this, along the same line, since you call on a Father, you call on God as our Father, who judges each man's work impartially, live your lives as strangers here in reverent fear. What does it mean to be an alien, to be a stranger in this world? Because that's what God is saying. God is saying, okay, collision, you are not of this world, you are strangers in this world. You're an alien in this world. Now, I thought we would look at it from this perspective. A lot of you are going to be going to India. Now, when you go to India, you are an alien there. You're a stranger there. You are a stranger there. This is what happens. You don't speak their language. You don't speak their language. And they don't speak your language. When you go there, they have a different culture. They do things that you don't understand, and you do things that they don't understand. They kind of look at you like, who the heck are you people? And for those of you that are going the first time, you're going to say the same thing. Who the heck are these people? You dress differently. Now, you're going to get a sari and some of that stuff to try and look like them a little bit, but it's kind of like you dress totally different than what they dress. You have different religion. You have a total different religion than what they have. You have a different God than what they have. You have different ethics. You have different morals. You are totally different, and it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable. For those of you that are going for the very first time, and you're thinking now about going, Albert in his mind says, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? This is very uncomfortable. You're going to a place where you're not comfortable. You're very uncomfortable. So what does it mean now when we say that we are to be that same way here in America, even more so than that, listen to this, even the same way in church. Even that same way in church. Now let's keep looking at this. I want you to think about this. We're uncomfortable. Let's keep looking first at what God has to say. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 11. This is God said, all these people, now this is the, I'm just going to shut this off. I'm just going to shut this off, that's all right. You can hear me back there okay? Good. We'll get this worked out. They were talking in Hebrews about the people of the faith, Abraham, Moses, all the different people that were looking forward to something, but never seen it. Never seen it. Moses that led the Israelites out of the promised land for 40 years looking forward to something, but never saw the promised land. Abraham that was promised millions of descendants looking forward to it, but never saw it. So this is what God says. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were aliens and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. They admit it. This is not mine. This is not where I belong. This is not where I belong. I belong somewhere else. Philippians says this. Philippians 2:15 says this. So that you may become blameless and pure children of God without fault in a crooked and depraved generation in which you shine like stars in the universe. We are to shine like stars. You just saw in 1 Peter where it says that even the pagans, when they say something against you, you prove them wrong. You prove them wrong. We're to be totally different. We're to be totally different. We're going to get into this one. Colossians 3:2 says this. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. And then finally Philippians says this. Philippians says, their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is their shame. Their mind is on earthly things. This is the word. But our citizenship is in heaven, because we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ. Our citizenship is in heaven, not down here on earth. Now, let me try to explain all this, okay? What does this all mean? He said, we're not to conform to the world. We're not supposed to end up looking like the world. We're supposed to end up looking differently than what the world is. When you go to India, you don't go there trying to look like them. You remain who you are. That's what makes you attractive to them. That you don't try to become like them. You stay who you are, and then they're attracted to you. Kind of like what I shared with Melissa when Melissa goes there. Melissa's not going to dye her hair when she goes to India. Melissa's going to go there, and they're all going to want to like touch her hair. It's kind of like, ooh, it's a different color. What is that? You know, we're to stand out in a lot of different ways. That's what we're supposed to do. We're to stand out. That's what attracts us. Now, here's what I want to ask you a question. How many of you, if I were to ask you, how many of you feel really comfortable in this church? You're just sitting there and say, man, I feel comfortable here. I feel comfortable here. Okay. Here's what I want you to know. That's not necessarily a good thing. Okay? That's not necessarily a good thing. If you're sitting in your chair here, I hear this all the time. I see that, oh, I just love my church. I feel so comfortable there. You should be uncomfortable. You should be uncomfortable. You should be doing things that make you uncomfortable. It's kind of like Linda. When you got up today for the very first time, did you get up here kind of like, this is no problem, or this is easy, or did you feel a little uncomfortable? A little uncomfortable. What if Linda would have just said, I like staying in my chair. I just like staying in my chair. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I think of Corey, the first time that Corey played guitar here with Billy, and had never done it before. He was just learning to play guitar. And then he led worship with us for months and months and months, almost a year that he led worship for us. What if Corey would have just stayed in his seat being comfortable? But he didn't. He allowed himself to be uncomfortable. Nick, the first time that Nick got up here to play percussion, allowed himself to be uncomfortable. Now he's comfortable now, don't get me wrong, but even if he's comfortable now, he should make himself uncomfortable, which he did today by saying, I'm going to have my niece, I'm going to have my niece join us this morning. We're to constantly be uncomfortable. Now, I want to give a few more examples, okay, of ways that you could be uncomfortable. That is needed here in Collision. That's really needed here in Collision if we're going to be a church of Jesus Christ. If this is Jesus' church, then we have to be everything that Jesus wants us to be, and this is needed in our church. But it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's very uncomfortable. Okay? Now you don't know this because you've been comfortable sitting in your chair, so you don't know that we have people from this church, whether directly or indirectly, spouses, family members that are in prison. How comfortable is it for you to say, I'm going to go to Chino and visit them in prison? Ooh, I've never done that before. What's the process? What do you do when you go inside of there? What do you say when you meet them? Now, these are people that are in prison. I know that because my son was in there, that it isn't like they get visitors every day. Now, it's like my mom who's 95 years old, and when she gets a letter in the mail, it's kind of, she is so excited about getting a letter. So excited about getting a letter. She's 95 years old, just sitting in an apartment all day long. They're sitting in prison. Oh, how many of you have been in prison and relate to that? Stuart, don't be afraid of raising your hand. Raise a little higher over. You've shared run a whole church already. You know what it's like in there. It's lonely. It's lonely. After a while, you just feel like, does anybody even care? We have that. Don't we? We have that. How about this? We have somebody that we prayed for here just a few days ago that's went into rehab. Now, I know that it's only family and friends that can, most times that can go, but it's kind of, how uncomfortable is that to go to a place where there's all addicts? For you to just let them know that you care. How uncomfortable is it for you to get up out of this comfortable chair, to go over here to write a card where you can just kind of say, well, my little bit of words don't mean anything. It's like paying your taxes. They don't need my taxes. They make enough money. I'll just cheat on my taxes. It's kind of like, how important is that? But you have to be a little bit uncomfortable to get out of your chair to go there and do that. But you don't think that Anthony sitting there that gets that card one day is not going to be like my mom, or he's going to open that card up and he's going to go, I don't even know these people. He's going to turn to Maggie. Maggie, honey, look at what your church did. Look what our church did. Look at what they gave. Look, who's this? Who's Liz? Who's Liz? She says she loves me. I hope you don't take that wrong, Maggie. But you have to be a little uncomfortable. You can't just sit in your chair. You can't just sit in your chair. Anthony needs you. You hear me? Anthony needs you. You don't need him. But if you want to be like Jesus, get up out of your chair. Get up out of your chair. Do something. How about this one? There's people that in our church, loved ones that are in hospice, that are dying. I know, my best friend that I've ever had in my whole life is in hospice dying right now. Cancer. Probably just got a few days to live. It's not comfortable going there. I look at him, I said, is that Don Biggers? It doesn't look like Don Biggers. Oh my gosh, it doesn't look like him anymore. It's very comfortable. But when I touch his hand, say, Don, it's Jim, he moves a little bit. He moves a little bit. He senses that this is my best friend who came to visit me. All these people are in our church. We have people like this in our church. Like that. Here's one. Well, here's a tough one. Who's ready for a tough one? I mean, seriously, who's ready for a really tough one? Anybody? Nobody. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. We have people in this church that are gay. And do they ever feel uncomfortable? How would you like to take that person out to lunch and say, what's it like? What are we doing here in Clear? How comfortable do you feel here? Do you sense like we're judging you? I'd like to know how you feel. Oh my gosh, is that uncomfortable? Is that ever uncomfortable?
I love it.
Now I'm going to admit here something, okay? I have a son that's gay. And he was coming here and he doesn't come here anymore. Why do you think he's not coming here anymore? He's had a few people that kind of like, when you have, go and shake hands, meet people, he sees people walking right by him. Now, we may not even be doing that, but he senses it. Do you have any idea what it's like to be gay? Heck no. It's like, I have no idea what it's like to be an addict. I don't relate to Anthony at all. But boy, I care about him. I care about him. I want to know. They showed a video that Thursday night that, oh my gosh, it opened my eyes up to addiction. I just sucked it in like a sponge, and I can't wait to see the next one. How uncomfortable would that be? It'd be a lot easier just sitting in a chair, wouldn't it? It'd be a lot easier just sitting in a chair. Now, as a father, this is what I would love. Somebody that cared enough to say, Jim, what's your son's phone number? I'd like to go talk to him. Comfortable. Comfortable. Here's another one. This one's harder than the last one. How many of you have somebody sitting in this church right now that you know, don't raise your hand, that doesn't necessarily care about you too much? In fact, you've heard them talk about you. The easiest thing to do now is talk about them. How uncomfortable would it be to say, hey, can I take you for lunch today? And talk to them instead of about them. And force them to talk to you instead of about you. Oh, that'd be uncomfortable. Oh my goodness, that would be uncomfortable. So Dave, can I take you out for lunch? But do you hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? So when I say that, how many of you feel comfortable? Imagine if you knew that after church today, you were going to be taking out someone to lunch that you knew was doing this about you, and I said, how comfortable you feel sitting here today? Would your hand have gone up? Probably not. Probably not. It could be something as simple as this. We got visitors here in our church that have been coming here just recently. Even if you were to start doing this, say, you know what, I'm gonna invite them to my house for lunch, just so I get to know them a little bit more. I don't even know them, but I kind of relate to them a little. I kind of like the way they look. He got a tattoo a little bit like mine. I'm gonna see if they want to. I'm gonna see if he wants to go to lunch, and then I get to know him just a little bit more. Do you think of how many things we can do? Here's one. Here's one. We have youth that come here on Sunday mornings, and then a lot of times leave. Now, I've heard this. Jim, you need to do something about that. Oh, really? I'm just glad they're here. I'm glad they're here. If they hear 10 words, that excites the heck out of me. How uncomfortable would it be for you to go outside and talk to them and say, hey, not judging them, just hang with them. I mean, do you really need to hear another message that bad? Some of you? Well, wouldn't it be better for you to leave here and go out there and hang with them and find out what's going on? What's going on? How you guys doing? You don't ask them a question like, why don't you come into church? Red light goes on right away. Get this guy away from me, please. Or this girl. Just kind of, how are you guys doing? Sure, how uncomfortable is that? We have children. You've probably seen it. We have children that come in here and worship sometimes, and they worship with us because they don't necessarily want to be in their children's class. How would it be if you were to take that child out inside and say, how come? We could be better children leaders if we found out what we were doing wrong. If there is anything that we're doing wrong. They may just not like church period, maybe they don't like school. But find that out. Find that out. I'm going to keep going. Youth, I got one for you. I got one for you. We almost every single Sunday we have youth here that don't go to crash. We have one sitting right over here right now that doesn't go to crash. How many of you have got uncomfortable enough to go and invite him and say, how come you don't want to come? We'd love to have you there. We'd love to have you there. Come on. Not a crash. There was a young girl that came with us. We had an outing this Wednesday night. This past one to John's Incredible Pizza, and someone invited her to crash, and she came for the very first time, and I could tell she was having a great time, and will probably come back again because of that. Are you doing that? Because it's just much more comfortable just sitting in a chair. Much more comfortable just sitting in a chair. Here's one. It's the last one. I just told you that. You don't pay my salary. Okay? Money you give goes to ministry. How uncomfortable is it to get out of your chair and go over there and put the money in the offering? I've never done that before. I've never given anything before. There's a whole bunch of you. Youth included. We talked about this at the youth group. In the youth group, if you made $5 last week, put 50 cents in the offering. It's not how much you give. It's starting to honor God. It's starting to honor God with your finances. So when I see youth, and I've seen some that don't go to crash, that even heard that message, and I had 2 last week, envelopes with $1 each in each one of them. Now, as I'm going through counting the offering and recording and all that, when I see that, my heart just kind of goes like, a smile comes on my face. You're learning. It's like learning to pray. It's like learning to come into church to praise Jesus. Learning to give. Now, let's talk about the ones that aren't doing it already. Paul, how comfortable was it for you the first time you shared a prayer up here? You know what I'm answering? I'll bet you his heart was beating like crazy. He could have just not done that and stayed comfortable. Alex, how hard was it for you the first time when you said, I'm going to lead a women's Bible study, and I prepared it, now I'm meeting on Wednesday night, and it's kind of like, is anybody going to show up? Are they going to like it? Or are they going to understand what I'm teaching here? All of that would have been much easier. Would have been much easier just staying in the chair and being comfortable. Wouldn't it? Been much easier. But you have to change this girl's life right here. You go through too, don't you? You see, we can just stay in our chairs and never make a difference. And never make a difference. How uncomfortable was it for you, Robert, the first time that you led a life group? It would have been much easier just attend the life group. Eric, how uncomfortable was it for you to lead? It would have been much easier just attending it or not even go to a life group at all.
Still uncomfortable.
Still uncomfortable. Still uncomfortable. Now, if they weren't willing to do it, we won't even have life. I'm not going to ask Dave because this guy's a veteran. He's done it so many times already. How many of you have to go into your life group? We've got like 20-some people going to your group.
Not anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's 30 of them.
He's got a
Yeah, I bet you could.
he's got a mega life group.
Yeah. But are you hearing what I'm saying a little bit here? It's not comfortable. The first time that you even hosted a life group, the first time that you taught a children's class, which is little children, and yet the first time that you go to do that, you're so, oh God, am I going to be any good at this? Am I going to be any good at this? What if you'd have never done it? You just stayed in your seat comfortable, and we didn't even have children's church in Alpharcia. Somebody had to do it the first time. Going to India. Real comfortable, isn't it, Albert? Very uncomfortable. I just talked to Renee Uribe this week. Renee Renee has gone there, I got some as many times as Dave Sloan, I think 7 or 8 times. And he told me this, he says, you know what, Jim, I'm still uncomfortable getting on that plane going. It's still uncomfortable going there. Now I'm proud of how many of you in this church, I am so proud of those of you that said, sign me up. Gosh, you don't see homie going.
The homie don't play.
26 hours on a plane, that's uncomfortable. Eating curry, that's uncomfortable. 8 hours on a bus just to get to see the children, that's in dust in 116 degrees, that's uncomfortable.
That's insane.
Yeah, better yet. So for those of you that are doing it, I commend you. I
Fasting,
commend
that's
you,
insane.
people, because I didn't do it. So for those of you that just sit in your chair week after week after week, do you want to start getting uncomfortable? Jesus needs you. Jesus needs you. It's not my church. This is not my church. Jesus is just to give me the privilege of overseeing it and using the gifts that he gave me, but it's not my church. It's Jesus' church. So you can just sit here and feel comfortable, or you can say, you know what? Jim, can I go out to lunch with you? Mike, can I go out to lunch with you? Dave, can I go out to lunch with you? I'd like to share with you the things that I think I'm good at, the things I think that I have a spiritual gift at, and then you can tell me where you think that I might be able to be used. Step out for the first time. Be uncomfortable. So that the next time when I say, how many of you feel comfortable in this church, no hand goes up because you're all doing something and it's not very comfortable. I would love for that to happen. I would love for that to happen one day. And this church, imagine where this church would go as each, what does it say? As each part does its work. We're a body. We're a body. And it says the body all works together as each part does its work. When I'm walking back here, the body's all working together and it's not even thinking. My toes are moving, my feet are moving, my arms are moving, my body's moving, my brain, it's all working together because it all does its part. And one part is more important than the other part. You're all a part of this body. What if one of the parts just decided it wasn't going to do anything anymore? What if the heart just decided, you know what, I'm not going to beat anymore? What if the lung all of a sudden decided, you know, I'm not going to suck any air in anymore? What if the pancreas just all of a sudden, you know what, I'm not going to do anything anymore. I'm just going to sit here. You're needed. You're needed. The body needs you. The body needs you. Even if you're new, you're needed. Even if you're new. I keep praying all the time for God to make sure I get the right idea. That God would train somebody here that has teaching, that's gifted at teaching. He gives us worship leaders, he gives us children's leaders. And then, lo and behold, the last 2 weeks we have a gentleman that's come now that's got he's got a theological degree. I have a degree. It's the Jim Plot degree. I didn't even finish college, let alone go to theological seminary. This guy's gone to the seminary. Imagine what he could teach us. Might over-teach us. I don't know. But I keep praying that God would bring people like that here that has that gift. What is your gift? What do you want to do? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to be uncomfortable? When Maggie came for the first time Wednesday night with our youth, 38 of us, and she just kind of like looking like, I don't know these kids don't know me. It's kind of like, this is very uncomfortable. I'm not really an outgoing person. I'm kind of a shy person. It's just kind of like, this is uncomfortable. Cheryl's a veteran, so well, she wasn't there. Her husband was there, he's a veteran. It's not easy the first time. Nothing's easy the first time. It's very uncomfortable. Now let's say it again. Jesus needs you. God needs you. There are so many things that I would still love to see Liz doing. So, and then some are starting to do just a little bit, like we pray. We're proud of the fact that sometimes we get 20 prayer requests. Now, don't get me wrong. It's great that we're praying for it. But boy, I'd love to see arms and legs to those prayers. I'd love to see arms and legs to those prayers. Instead of just praying for Liz, that 3 of us the next time say, Liz, when are you going to see your social worker again? Can we go with you? Because right now, her social worker just feels that Liz is just on her own, and it's kind of like nothing is happening. Liz was crying this morning because she feels like she's lost her daughter. She's lost her, is ready to just give up. Just ready to give up. There was a prayer request, and I don't want to name it for you, but there's a prayer request for another family that lost their babies. And I saw where she's praying for one was praying for the other one, just saying, oh, I hope they don't go back to their old friends and their old way. Now, it's great that we're praying for them, but that person needs you now. That person needs you now. That person needs you to go visit them and say, how are you doing? How are you doing? Because if you don't do it, his friends are gonna. His old friends are gonna. And before you know it, right back to where he was. We're his body. We're his body. It belongs to us because Jesus sent them to us. But it's uncomfortable and it's easier just to stay in your chair. But when you start getting out of your chair and you start talking to people and you start meeting people and you start praying for people, all of a sudden you see the needs and now you're used to Jesus. That's what it means when it says you are an alien and a stranger in this world. That's what it means. You're not just in this world with sure, you raise your family. I got to raise my family. Everybody has to raise their family. And Jesus even said this, if you love your son and your daughter more than me, then you're not worthy of me. If you love your husband and your wife more than me, then you're not worthy of me. Holy smokes, what's he saying? Don't love your kids, don't love your spouse. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is you're an alien and you're a stranger in this land. You're just passing through here. Jesus is saying, I need you. I need your whole family. I need your whole family. I need your sons and your daughters. I need your husband and your wife. I need all of you. I brought people in you that have needs. And I have a whole bunch of more that I would love to bring in, but you're not ready for them yet. You're not ready for them yet. But I have a whole bunch more that I would love to bring in. I have some more Maggies and Anthony's that I would love to bring in here, but you're not ready for them yet. Here's what you need to know. That life is all left. You want joy in your life? Don't just stay in your seat and comfortable. That is boring as hell. Getting out of that seat, getting your hands dirty, and getting, oh my gosh, is that exciting. Now you have a reason to get up in the morning. Now you have a reason to get up. And now you have a reason to lay in bed and not be able to go to sleep because you got all these things going through your mind. I could go on and on and on. I'm going to get the worship team up here. I don't know what Jesus is telling you. I have no idea. So come on up here and talk to me. Come on up here and talk to him and say, Jesus, what would you like for me to do? I want to be a little more uncomfortable. What would you like for me to start doing? And just start with little things. Nobody starts out running. A baby doesn't start out running. Maya's just barely starting to walk. Just learn to start walking with some of this stuff. Walking would be going over there and just putting your name on the card. Taking a few more steps would be writing a few words in it. Running would be going to visit them. Or going to see Maggie and say, Maggie, what can we do to help you out? What can we do to help you and Anthony out? Or what can I do for you besides just praying? That's running. That's running. But we all got to start walking first. So come on up here to the cross. Let's worship now. Let's talk to Jesus. This is Jesus' time now. Okay? Let's talk to Jesus.